Were you told you were shy? Do you identify as shy? Do you hate that word now? Do you just wish you could get over it and get on with your life? Welcome to Shining Beyond Shy, empowering you to create a greater life than you ever thought was possible. With your Shining Beyond Shy host, Fiona Cups. Hi, everybody. Fiona Katz here, your host for Shining Beyond Shy. And this week, the episode is called, What If It's Not Logical? And I was thinking this, I've just come back to Zagreb in Croatia, where I'm likely to be living for the next bit of time. And I say likely because as a Brexiteer Britain person, it's not so easy to live in these European countries as it was. And it seems that Croatia is particularly difficult to get the normal types of visas and stuff for. Anyway, I have a way of getting a year-long visa, and I'm probably going to go for that. And so I'm back here at the moment on a temporary basis, looking to be here for the next year. And it's so funny because when I kind of fell in love with Croatia, it was actually in November last year, and I had a trip planned to Egypt. And, you know, flying to Egypt at that time of year, very exciting, flying to the sunshine. And I remember so clearly sitting in the little apartment that I used to rent and feeling sad to be leaving Croatia. And this is before I'd created any kind of life here, really. It's like I'd been here for a couple of Access Consciousness classes and had a really good time with people who were then leaving. And so it wasn't like I had friends or I'd started to do many activities. I'd started to dance a bit, but there was something about the place that I just loved. And I felt that regret flying to Egypt. And I had a bit of a mixed time in Egypt. I mean, the things that I really liked, but I also had a really full-on time. And so I chose to come back to Croatia, and in January and February, really actively looked at creating a life that I enjoy living. And for me at that moment, that means a lot of dancing. So I'm learning salsa dancing, and I'm doing that twice a week. And I'm also doing the type of dance that I've done for years, 5 rhythms dance. And there are various other things that through getting to know people in these situations, I chose to go to a sort of dance meditation, which I totally loved. And then on Saturday evening, I actually went to this ecstatic dance, which was, well, it lived up to its name. It was totally ecstatic. Anyway, I had a similar thing where I have just been, as you may have heard me talk about, I've just been in Dubai and in Kuwait and then in France. And in Dubai and Kuwait, I was facilitating classes. And I remember when I flew to Dubai and I actually delayed my departure, not because I didn't want to go to Dubai, but because it didn't warrant being there for 2 weeks. It's like 1 week was enough really to do what I wanted to do. And I had the same thing when I went to the airport, a bit of regret at leaving Croatia, by the way, in the snow in the end of February and flying to the sunshine of Dubai. It's like I went to Dubai and Kuwait at a brilliant time of the year before the crazy hot came in. It was a really yummy time of year. And I still had this slight regret. And again, I mean, I had an amazing time in Dubai and Kuwait. Mainly, it's like the facilitating that I did, I just loved. And I have to say that I missed the people that I've been making friends with here. I missed the dance. I missed some of the life that I've been creating here. And then I went to participate in an access class, which is held, well, it was held in Mexico and online. I went to participate in that class in France with my friend, and it was amazing. And then I went to Paris and spent a whole day in Paris, and then flew to Zagreb. And there was something that changed in my body when I arrived in Zagreb. There was this I'm back to a place I love. And this is the title of the episode. It's not logical. So, and maybe it's not like this for everybody, but for me, I had been brought up to believe, well, if you got the chance to travel, you would take the chance to travel. If you got the chance to leave Europe in the winter or the early spring for somewhere yummy and hot and warm, you'd go somewhere yummy and hot and warm because it was bound to be better. And I realized I was operating from that point of view. And yet there was this kind of, oh, in my world, both times when I flew to the sunshine from the cold of winter. And I suppose this is the thing, it's not logical. I cannot explain why I would like to spend a year, and who knows, it may be longer, it may not, why I'd like to spend a year in Zagreb, you know, in the city, in a country where I don't speak the language. It's just not logical. And here's the thing, we're not actually logical beings. And I suppose one of the things that occurs when we're shy, we try to figure out, to work out how to live our lives in a way that's safe. That's definitely what I was doing. So I was trying to work out how to live my life in a way that would please my dad so that I wouldn't be more verbally abused by my dad. But I was also trying to figure out, work out. I mean, I remember I used to do tick lists. If I had a choice to make, like which country was I going to live in, which place was I going to live in, I would do tick lists. And then I would berate myself because often, even though I had a tick list, I would end up doing something different. How many of you do that and make yourselves wrong? And one of the things that I'm really grateful for with the tools of Access Consciousness and of Right Voice for You is that what if we're not wrong for that? What if the way we live our lives doesn't have to be dictated by logic? And what if being logical doesn't work? And I have another example of this. So when Corona first hit, I was actually in Montenegro. And I'd been drawn to Montenegro because I knew it was a beautiful space. I mean, to be honest, I'll give you the honest, totally non-logical answer. I was Googling about where to base your business as an international person. Before Corona this was, I was interested in living in different places, of course. And basically found, I didn't know much about Montenegro, but you know what? I love the name Montenegro. And I started Googling about it. And I was like, oh, that might be a place for me. Wow, wow. Even before I had been there, I kind of loved it. And I flew there on the day that, for me, Corona really began, March the 11th, 2 years ago. So March the 11th, 2020. And I could have flown to the UK. I mean, I didn't have a home in the UK by that point. I could have flown to the UK and chosen to spend Corona time in the UK, but I immediately knew I wanted to be in Montenegro. And it was such a supportive place for me to be at that time. I spent loads and loads of time outside, and it was running around quite a lot for several years. A real relaxation and yummying out for me. And at a certain point, I decided that Montenegro was it. It was kind of like I decided that because I was liking it there, I would continue to like that there. I would buy a house, I would live there, I would do this, I would do that. And so as Corona continued and I started to travel to different places, I always came back to Montenegro. And at first, it was generative. It's like Montenegro was calling me. And I didn't realize when the energy changed. And so Montenegro is a very quiet place. And to be honest, a lot of the expats who go there because it's so cheap and they can live a small, cheap life there. And well, it's like, it's funny here in Croatia, they say it out loud, they kind of tease the Montenegrins for being slow and lazy. And I realized that I wanted, well, basically what happened was that I came to Croatia to participate in some Access Consciousness classes. And I couldn't believe, I just loved, particularly Zagreb. You know, and I'd spent ages in these tiny Montenegrin towns. And even the capital, which I quite like in Montenegro, Podgorica, is tiny, absolutely tiny. And, you know, Zagreb and Croatia aren't, you know, Zagreb isn't a big city and Croatia isn't a big country, but compared to Montenegro, it's like the height of sophistication. So I realized that I needed to leave Montenegro, and I also realized I'd been in complete conclusion about Montenegro continuing to be the place that would be the most contributory to me to live. I realized that. And it was so funny. I hadn't noticed when it had changed, was in total conclusion about just continuing to stay there. And the reason I say this is that this is not logical story. So yeah, Montenegro is really cheap. I could continue to base myself in Montenegro, live a cheap life, and from time to time travel, like I did to Dubai, to Kuwait. It's like choosing to be here in Zagreb. It's more expensive. And by the way, I was just in Paris. Zagreb is nowhere near as expensive as Paris. But Croatia is much more expensive than Montenegro. And it kind of complicates my life a bit being here, because I had arranged the residency papers in Montenegro. I have to cancel them. I have to do something new here. And yet, when I ask my body just wants to be here. And there's all this delicious dance and movement, and it's such a contribution to my body, and it's what I want to be doing at the moment. And it's funny because often at the end of these dances there are sharing circles, and I don't understand much. I mean, I'm starting to understand a bit of Croatian, but I don't understand much, but somehow I feel included. And what's often quite marked with these sharing circles is that for about half the people, they're laughing when they're sharing at the end of the evening, and it's like other people in the circle are laughing. It's like it feels a very light energy for me being here. Can't explain it. And that's the thing, it's not explainable. It's like if my dad were here, my dad actually died 2 years ago. If my dad were here, I wouldn't be able to tell him logically why I was living here. I mean, I could tell him some good things like, have you seen the coastline? It's so yummy and beautiful. And, you know, that would appeal to him. Oh, there are some mountains here, you know. To say I'm following the energy because it feels good for my body, that would not be an acceptable answer to my dad, who I see as well, it's like he lived his life according to logic, but at the same time was driven by something sense. And probably why I was slightly challenging to him at times, because I chose to follow what he wasn't willing to follow. So, well, I hope this is a contribution if you ever find yourself, well, first of all, if you find yourself not doing the logical thing and wondering why you're not doing the logical thing, and then going to beating yourself up for not doing the logical thing. So let me just say, you're not wrong. We're not actually logical beings. And the way that our lives are set up, we're taught that we should be logical. We may try to make ourselves be logical and pat ourselves on the back, and yet it isn't how we truly are as beings. So do yourself a favor. Don't beat yourself up if you find yourself being illogical. And I'd love to give you this tool, which is one of the first tools that we have in Access Consciousness. And it's what's true for you makes you feel lighter. A lie makes you feel heavier. So for example, for me, when I was in France and I thought of coming to Croatia, it made me feel so happy. When I think about spending a year in Croatia, those of you on the video will have seen my body move when I said that. Year in Croatia, my body is like, hey, pay attention, I want to live in Croatia. So that's one of the signs that I get that something's light. Well, it's like there's an expansion in my world, and my sense is that what my body is doing is making sure that I'm paying attention to the expansion, that I'm not going with the logical, because I spent a lot of my life going with the logical, never worked out very well. So if I have the sense of expansion, that's what will get created with that choice. So me knowing that it feels expansive to stay in Croatia will mean that it creates expansion for me. If I think of living in Montenegro, it actually feels very, very shut down, closed. And another thing I considered doing is because, I mean, I travel a lot, and I was like, I don't know if I really need to spend the money getting that Croatian visa. Maybe I don't really want it. And what I realized was that I am really, really fed up of counting how many days I've been in one country and moving to the next country and balancing my suitcases and seeing where I can leave my stuff. I'm really fed up with that. And I'm actually looking forward to having somewhere. I mean, it may not be that I rent somewhere for an entire year. It gets very hot in Croatia in the summer, and maybe that's the time that I visit the UK. That's my kind of plan. So it may not be that I rent the same place for the whole year, but please, a few months would be great. So, you know, I'll just tell you the tool again. So what's true for you makes you feel lighter. What's a lie for you makes you feel heavier. And you can also ask, what will my life be like in 5 years' time? If I stay in Croatia, and again, you see my body moving, what will my life be like in 5 years' time if I continue this itinerant life? Not fun for me, not to the extent that I have been. It's like I feel like I need a bit of being in the same place. And besides that, I'm learning salsa. It's like my class that I left 4 weeks ago. I wrote to them and said, oh, can I come along tonight? And they said, look, we're sorry, you're already 4 weeks behind. It will be too hard for you to catch up. So I've been demoted when I am spending the week in Montenegro. So when I'm back, I can join another class with different people. And it's like, part of me feels a bit sorry, but it's like, I am so grateful that I have this thing of, oh, I was in Dubai and Kuwait and I loved being there. If I hadn't been in Dubai and Kuwait, I would have loved my life here. And it's always been the case for me that I've tended to enjoy my life more when I'm traveling. And I'm really enjoying that I'm creating something amazing where I'll be at least mainly living. I'm not completely normal yet. But more normal than I was. Oh, who knows? Anyway, that's not my goal, to be normal. But that is what is expansive for me. That's the way that it's expansive for me to live my life at the moment. And I suggest you just ask yourselves, are you, like me, living your life to please someone else, like I was living my life to please my dad? Or are you truly getting present with what's true for you? And all the time with the tools of Access Consciousness, I am becoming more present with what's actually true for me, what actually makes sense for me. And, you know, having stopped living my life for my dad, it's very easy to try to be the perfect Access Consciousness certified facilitator, to try and live your life for, I can say, the founder of Access Consciousness, Gary Douglas. So the purpose of Access Consciousness is empower you to know what you know, not that I try to become the perfect facilitator in an attempt to please the founder of Access Consciousness. It's like, no, these tools, including the ones that I use in Shining Beyond Shy, are here to allow us to know what's true for us and to start living our lives in a way that we really would love to be living. And that's often not something that shy people are able to have and be. So that's my invitation to you, to really get present with how you'd like to live your life and use those questions to, when it comes to, I was going to say major choices, you can use them for everything. It's like, I hope to be staying longer in one apartment, but I've been moving around a lot. And it's like, hey, if I stay in this apartment, what will my life be like in 5 years' time? If I stay in this one. And the other night I spent ages and I couldn't find somewhere to stay in Zagreb for 3 nights. My normal place is, I think in the summer it gets really booked up. And I was looking, and then I put my price up by 10 euros or whatever. And suddenly it was like, boom, this place that I'm in now came up. And I have to say, it's not perfect, but I guess it's more perfect than the other ones would have been. And it's like, for me, it's a demand to be present because I've created some crazy with staying in places that really have not been kind to my body. So that's one of the areas where I demand I be really present, even if, as in this case, it meant that I spent 10 euros more every night for a couple of nights. I'm getting to Montenegro next. Montenegro is very cheap. Okay, beautiful people. I hope this was a contribution to you. If you like this podcast, please like it. If you would, well, if you know other people this can contribute to, please share it. It's like my target is for this to be with every shy person on the planet who desires something different, every shy person who would love to shine beyond shy, every shy person who believes it's impossible for them to shine beyond shy. What if it is possible? Okay, see you next week. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I'm so grateful for you. It would be great if you could subscribe, great if you could leave a review wherever you're listening. And if you'd like some quick, simple tips to overcome shyness wherever you are, please go to my website, fionacuts.com, where you can download my free product, 5 Steps to Overcoming Shyness Wherever You Are. Thank you again, and see you next time.